The next lesson is about congruence and midpoint. One of my goals is for you to understand correct notation for congruence, and another goal is for you to define and use midpoint. Congruent and equal are words that are similar but have some important differences, so I wanted to make sure that we took some time to compare and contrast them. A big thing that they have in common is that both of these words are talking about things being the same. The sign for congruent and the sign for equal are similar. They're not exactly the same, but they do have a lot in common. As you know, an equal sign looks like this. A congruent sign looks like that, but with a squiggle on top. Equal is something that we use to compare numbers. We say two numbers are equal to each other, and we also use the equal sign for solving equations. The congruent sign, we're going to use a lot in geometry, is something we use to compare shapes. So when you see a congruent sign, you should be thinking those shapes are identical. They're the same shape. Or they have the same shape. I don't have anything to put in this box, so we'll leave it blank. Segments that have the same length are called congruent segments. AB with a line on top means that's a segment, is congruent to segment CD. We're comparing shapes there. If we were comparing lengths, the notation would be AB. That's the length of AB. And two lengths can be equal because lengths are numbers. But congruence means that the segments are congruent. We put the same number of tick marks on congruent segments, showing that those segments are congruent to each other. So AB is congruent to CD. We have one tick mark on those segments. PQ is also congruent to QS, so we have to indicate that those are a different set of congruences, so we use more tick marks. The difference between congruent and equal is the lengths, because those are numbers, the lengths might be equal. If the lengths are equal, then the segments are congruent. There's a definition here. A midpoint is a point of the segment if and only if the point divides the segment into two congruent segments. I want to highlight some new language here. If and only if is language that means that this statement is true as an if-then statement, no matter which direction we read it. We could say, if a point is a midpoint, then it divides the segment into two congruent segments. Or we could say, if a point divides the segment into two congruent segments, then it is a midpoint. So we can read this sentence in both directions. That's what if and only if means. You'll see more of it later this semester, but I wanted to introduce it now. Anyway, so I'm going to draw a segment AB. And then, that's not a very straight segment, but you know what I mean. And then M is the midpoint of segment AB. So I'm going to put an M right in the middle. And then I'm going to do my congruence mark showing that those line segments are congruent. Or the length of AM. So I could say AM is congruent to MB. Or I could say AM equals MB. Without the little bar on top, it means the length of AM is equal to the length of MB. Okay, that is the lesson for today. I will also post the solution to our examples later.